afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another State of the Balance with me, your host Imperial Lane, for May 2018. And what sort of the things looking for? I mean, of course, the thing to keep in mind is we just got a patch, which certainly has affected the metagame in a lot of ways, perhaps some more than others, but it kind of makes this State of the Balance a bit tricky because right now it's sort of just the situation where a lot of the factions are actually going through, some degree of change, adaptation to what's happening. So this is sort of more of a tentative look at how the meta could look, I think, in, the State of the Balance. In that regard, there's not much to say about balance as such, I think. But let's sort of have at it. I mean, overall, for the Soviet side, there's a wide variety of strategies right now. Soviet players are just pushing for all sorts of things. I've seen earlier scout cars. I'm still seeing some go for snipers. There's maxims, there's mortars, there's conscripts, penal troopers. There's a lot of things, really. Some going for T-70s. I'm seeing less H-26s overall because I'm seeing a lot of T-34-76s, H-85s, T-35s. I'm even seeing M4C Shermans a bit here and there. Basically, the number of strategies Soviet players are currently trying out are immense. In part because, again, the units are relying on, to an extent, yes, I would say a bit outliers. There's rather, to an extent, overperforming. Of course, once they're sort of a bit out of the picture, it sort of means, a lot of the other units become a lot more interesting to look at, more viable in that sense. So there's a bit of shift there, I think, in terms of search strategy, at least for now. We'll have to sort of see how this sort of, congeals, maybe would be the word there, but basically settles. And right now there's a lot hard to say that because, again, the search strategies are just pulling in all sorts of directions. So while some, of course, trying to stick to older strategies, there's just as many search players, in particular in the higher ranks, that are trying out new strategies and new tactics, which certainly makes them a bit more dangerous to keep in mind. So be on the lookout for a lot more things from the Soviet players in most cases, unless they're Cat and Molo, in which case you expect lots and lots of scout cars because nothing's changed there. As for the Americans, there's probably been a lot less change. They didn't really get hurt, by the changes. They got some light slaps on the wrist for all intents and purposes, so while there'll be a little less performance in some ways, the overall, what's changed for the Americans on their side really hasn't changed. It's basically going to boil down to how the Axis force reaction from the Americans. I think they'll determine how the American metagame changes. But so far, it's very much the same. Go for a bunch of riflemen, get a mortar, go for lieutenant, go for an anti-aircraft half-tech, maybe an M20, go for tanks, go for Jacksons, go for doctrine sort of works with it. There's been an increase in the rifle company, I think, with some players. But overall, I think it's going to stick in a lot of ways the same way this has gone for the last several months, because there's not really again been much force there so far, at least. And again, everything's going to come down to how the Wehrmacht and the Oberkommando challenge the Americans. That I think is going to sort of determine how the American changes their responses to the Wehrmacht and the Oberkommando West respectively. So in that regard, there's not really a lot that's changed, because not really a lot changed for the Americans this patch, at least not on their side. Again, it's going to come down to how the Wehrmacht and Oberkommando West changes reflects and then forces the Americans to adapt. Moving on to the Brits, I haven't seen quite nearly this much with the Brits, but I've seen some actually beginning to go for Bren guns again, interestingly enough, which might be more due to, again, how the Axis have forced them to react to their change, the increase in 2-2s. Overall, I think rather restoring some things. There's definitely more crumbles, but the centre hasn't passed out either. People still seem to realise it's kind of good, it's just not, stupidly good. Beyond that, though, it's a lot hard to say what's happening with the Brits so far. Not so many playing Brits at the moment. There's a lot more Soviets than Americans, at least to an extent, so I'm not quite seeing as much Brit play the last couple of days since the patch was released. But again, overall, sort of larger scale, not as a lot of changes, except there's more crumbles, and occasionally I'm actually seeing Bren guns, which is rather going out of style, because to an extent you just needed all the infantry sections, but with slightly, movements away from that, part because towards the centre got needed in the infantry section, need to have fight better, plus 2-2s and other sort of small improvements there. There might be more than, need for the Brits to actually upgrade the infantry section with the Bren guns, so the nerf there might have an impact, actually. We'll see. But again, a bit like the Americans, the Brits seem like more any metagame tends to come there will be more reacting to what the Germans are doing to them. So we'll have to see what happens. Then, of course, we will be moving on to the Germans now. Certainly the ones that are pushing a lot there. For the Wehrmacht, like the Mechanized Company, has come back with a vengeance. There's still some that are going for tier 3 rushes. That's just going to happen. For some, it's just a nice strategy and all that, but there's been a definite increase in people going for like the Mechanized Company, going for the 2-2-2. Like 2-2s are back in style. Panzer Grenadiers with Panzer 6 are also a lot more common now that became cheaper. So I mean, there's definitely something happening. Then again, those could probably be some of the things that are going to focus on the spur British innovation. You know, again, the 2.2 they struggle a bit with in some ways, particularly now it's a bit cheaper. It's not quite as easily locked down, so there's definitely some interesting responses there, possibly down the road. But also, just again, the Panzerschrecks can also give the Wehrmacht a wider variety of counters to light vehicles, in particular. Again, double Panzerschrecks can much more easily just damage these light vehicles and punish them if the Allied player makes a mistake in some ways. So I mean, that's, I think, definitely driving some change in the metagame, and again giving the Wehrmacht more options. Plus, mobile defense is also back in a big way. I mean, it was sort of happening a bit before the patch, but there's been a large increase, at least from my perspective, in mobile defense players and Pumas. Like, there's a lot of Pumas now, at least from some Wehrmacht players. So that's definitely also something to keep in mind of. They sort of help their versus medium armor to an extent, as long as they're not, the more premium stuff like T-35s or the EC8s and so on there. So that's definitely some response there to help so the Wehrmacht, come back if they're on the back foot and the Allies manage to rush out, say, a regular medium tank. The Puma can help fight that. So plus the Ostrom, so mobile defense is definitely becoming a bigger doctrine. Elite troops, meanwhile, seems to be slightly falling off their field, though there's some, of course, going for G43s from other doctrines. So in that regard, the Wehrmacht metagame to an extent becoming more light vehicle centric. Stugs still see play, Panzer IVs definitely see play. Austrians I haven't seen much of, and I mean, I'm seeing some experiment in Panthers, at least in team games and such there, though so far they tend to throw them away, at least in my personal experience. They might be struggling a bit there with the new Panthers. It's a bit hard to say that the Panthers actually make an impact yet or not, but I'm willing to give it a chance. I've heard from some players, at least in 2 vs 2s, it's actually kind of good with hull down, so there might be something there. But overall, Wehrmacht players to an extent been invigorated because, again, the Tier 2 is slightly better and more able to react to things and also create new threats, which of course is what the Wehrmacht wants. So they like to mechanized companies become better, and we'll see if there's some actual heavy Panzer Corps play that appears. But so far, this sort of at least experimenting more with Tier 2 into Tier 3 and less trying to push for Tier 4 for now. For the Oberkommando West, there's definitely an increase in Luxus and Pumas there as well. In that regard, light vehicle play has certainly also increased a lot with the Oberkommando West. Less flat calf tracks. They've definitely sort of taken a bit of a hit, I think, partly because the Lux is just more flexible now, more aggressive. Doctrinally, not much has changed there, I think. There's some Obersoldat in play, and I've yet to really see any sort of try and go for the Panther, except with 2 vs 2s, and same thing there. They kind of tend to toss them away. But otherwise, it just tends to be sort of like Panzer IV. Some go for spec ups, Command Panthers. But overall, there's not really in that sense been any sort of massive change, except again just an increase in light vehicles that play more aggressively and pressure their opponents more efficiently. So in that regard, I mean, the big changes so far happening for the Axis side is just the increase in light vehicle play, and of course how the Allies react to it and deal with it. And so far, to an extent, I think a lot of the Allied players are actually struggling a bit with it. There's sort of been so much from observing replays. I haven't had time to play actually, because I've just been searching for something to cast in several days in a row, which is slightly frying out my brain, by the way, but that's another story. But definitely the sort of the initial challenge is basically just to how to deal with the initial Axis vehicular push and sort of push on from there. And in that regard, certainly a lot of the Axis players, of course, trying to take much advantage of it and then sort of push into medium armor. So there's definitely some things happening there. There are definitely some things happening. And then again, Panzerschrecks are giving the Wehrmacht more options for responding and creating threats to vehicles. So that certainly also helps out the Wehrmacht play, I think, in a bunch of ways. And certainly, I think, leads to, overall, so far, at least it seems, stronger Wehrmacht faction, which will, I think, create so far more interesting plays because, again, the Wehrmacht player now, realistically, has more options. Even with the Stug nerf, it actually also still seems kind of good, just not that good. So, I mean, that's also a positive, I guess. So, I think that's sort of the state of the balance here. So far, things are looking promising. I'll give it that. But it's certainly not hard to say. Then there's certainly also the question of some of the issues like, is Wehrmacht Tier 4 actually worth aiming for, are a lot harder to answer. We'll have to see during the month if that actually happens. But, I mean, it's looking promising. And again, to an extent, there are definitely some changes happening in the meta game. But except for the surge, it's very much, I think, the Axis that are sort of driving the change there with the sort of the units they got improved. And of course, that means it comes down to the Allies just how to react to these and sort of force further changes as they sort of switch and respond to that metagame. So that's why I think the state of the balance here for now, in just again the first few days, and this is very much just cursory. I might have no idea how it could really turn out. I mean, again, it looks promising. So this is Imperial Lane signing off for now. thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, subscribe, like, share, comment on. And of course, if you feel like supporting, you can donate via Patreon or Pledge and PayPal. All the way around, Pledge and Patreon. Donate via PayPal. Links are in the video description. This is Imperial Dane signing off, and see you all another day for another video. Cheers.